Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do something fun. I wanted to create a video related to analyzing a malicious JavaScript sample. So let's start. I'm going to shift to my VM and I have a folder called Malware Analysis. In this folder, I have a malware.javascript file. Okay. Let me open this file in Visual Studio Code to see what we are dealing with. The first thing that we see is a lot of text. So this is, I don't know how many lines this is. I think they've concatenated this all on one line. So let's first try to look at this file and get a better understanding. I know this is a JavaScript file and we can see some code which has been concatenated together to make it more obfuscated and unreadable. We're going to download an extension to make this file pretty. This is the extension. It's called Prettier Code Formatter. This is an extension for Visual Studio Code. Once this is installed, let's open the file back up again, and we're going to use this extension to format the file. So format document, okay, so the code has been formatted a bit. Let's see what we are dealing with here. Firstly, I can see that there is a variable here 0xad05, which looks like a very long array. And then after that, we have some code here, which is the definition of some functions, etc. Again, the same thing is going on. We have a reg explorer constructor. I've never dealt with that, so this is the first time I'm dealing with it. I'm trying to look for commands that I know which are related to execution of code. So this is the same function. I think this looks like concatenation of objects to create a long string. So let's keep on going down. I think this is one big function call. All right, so I see something here which I know, this eval command. I know that JavaScript files usually, or JavaScript malware usually has some kind of an execution mechanism inside, and for JavaScript to execute any commands on the system, basically there are a handful of commands and eval is one of those commands. So what we'll do is we will replace this eval command with console.log to see what exactly the JavaScript is trying to execute. So since this is a JavaScript file, it was intended to execute on a Windows machine. In order to execute this in a similar manner on my Linux system, I will have to use Node.js, and we will install Node.js right now. Google.com, install Node.js, Ubuntu should be fine. Via package manager, we are on Debian, so we do this, and binary distributions. All right, so hopefully we don't have to jump anymore, and we have some. Okay, cool. So these look like the commands to install Node.js. Let's run these commands. Okay. Let this do its magic. Let's get Node.js installed on the system. Okay, it says that run this command to install Node.js and npm. We will comply and run the same command to install Node.js. All right. So now that we have Node.js installed, we can use Node.js to run this file, and we can take basically console.log will print the output of this command on the console itself. We are not going to use that. We are going to use this to redirect execution into another redirect execution and get the output into another file. So let's use that node./malware.js and put this into another file, step2.js. Okay, now we have the second file. If you look at the second file, this looks like again some obfuscated file, and the first line is obviously a comment because JavaScript comments start with // Again, these look like they are variables, long variables. I can see that there is a try catch over here, and then I have another variable here, and looks like another function. So let's try to format this document as well and see if we can make it better and more readable. All right, so again, we are looking at a file of 70 lines, and I can see another eval here. We are going to do something similar and just replace this with console.log and try to see if we can get another output from this file. So this time it's going to be node and then /step2.js. Okay, we have an error this time. ActiveX object is not defined. I think a variable is trying to create an ActiveX object here. All right. So what I feel is going on is that the JavaScript is trying to create an ActiveX object, most probably to execute some malicious PowerShell commands. We will have to look at the file further to go deeper into the analysis a bit. So the first part of the document is quite easy. Let me close this out. The first part of the document is quite easy. We look at a long variable, which is like an array. Then we have an exception here. So basically, if I want to explain what's going on here, it will wait for 193 milliseconds to complete the execution of this file. If the execution does not complete, then it's going to hit the try catch, and this is where the malware execution will start happening. This is another variable which is an array, and then we have a function. We have another variable which is calling this function, and then we have another variable here which is not being used, and then we have this variable here. All right, so we can go, let's go step by step. So firstly, let's try to look at the output of this, and console.log this variable to see basically what is inside this. All right, so we are done here. Node /step step2.js. Okay, so that is the variable which has this value. So instead of us having this variable, let me put this exact value here, and I can basically comment out these two lines. All right, instead of this object, ActiveX object, let me try to make this another string so that there is no problem in the execution here. This is mod. This is just the execution of this function, so we can ignore this line as well. And let's try to print this line. Okay, let me save this file and let me try to run it again. Save this file, run it again. Okay, now we have this output, which is linked to the console.log this. So let's create another file here and put the output of the last two console.out commands in those files. So the first one was this. Take this here and put it here. And the next one is this basically. And let's do a word wrap. Okay, so we can see here that if we use this actual line, so let's, in fact, let us put this line there. If you use this line, we can see that there's an ActiveX object being created for the shell, and then that variable is getting used to execute a command prompt, and then we have a PowerShell with an encrypted payload of this. So we can decrypt this payload directly in Linux as well, because encryption in PowerShell basically means it is base64 encoded. So we can use echo -n base64-d. All right, so what this is doing is it is trying to execute this command. So this is an invoke expression. What this command will do is it will go to this website and download whatever string is in this file, and then it will execute this. We can try to see if this still exists or not. We'll have to use PowerShell to execute this line. We can remove this ix cradle. So let's see if PowerShell is installed here. Okay, PowerShell is not installed, but we have a prompt which can help us install PowerShell. So let's do that. Problems of a new VM basically. And let's get into PowerShell. And let's find that line. This is the line. Let me take this line and put it in another file called step 4. So step 4.js, and let's paste this here. And we can use this to extract to see if the payload is still accessible or not. So to remind you guys, I'm not going to execute this. I'm going to remove this IEX command and just use this to download the string. Let's do that. Okay, so we are lucky that the payload is still available, and we can see we can create another file called step 5. txt. Let me rename this. This is not a JS file. Basically, this is a txt file. So in step 5, we have this output. So let me explain quickly what this is trying to do. A variable is created called path. This path is a variable which has the temp folder, and then we have this dat file name. I'm expecting that this name is randomly generated. Then we have a client object getting created, which is the same web client object. And then we have the same client object being used to download a file. The file that is downloaded is this from this path, and it is copied to this path. So a new file is going to be created in the temporary folder with this name gourmetuq.dat, and this file, it's going to be downloaded from here and copied to this path. Once this is done, run dll32 is going to use this command to execute this DLL file. Let's see if this file also exists. We are going to use the same command, and basically we are going to copy this. So the only difference looks like it's the main.php, but let me rewrite it again. And since this looks like it's going to be an executable file, I'm going to get this output and redirect it into a file called payload.dat. Okay, so we have the file called payload.dat, and I can run the file command on payload.dat. So if we see the output, it is clearly an MS-DOS executable. And so this is how the analysis of the JavaScript file works. I hope you like this video, and I will see you in the upcoming videos. Thank you very much for your time.